I woke to the faint hum of the refrigerator, the same hum that had accompanied 1,000 small chores I never claimed as mine. Last night's words were still lodged in my chest, heavy and precise. "You're just a guest. Move out so my daughter's family can have this space." She had said it with that air of finality, as if the sums of months of groceries, insurance, repairs, and utilities I had quietly covered were irrelevant. I didn't answer. I didn't yell. I didn't even react. Instead, I lay awake, listening to the creaks of the house, tracing in my mind each small thing I had held together here. Every faucet I fixed, every bill I paid, every plate of food on the table, they existed because of me, and yet they were invisible. The injustice didn't make me scream, it made me think. By morning, I moved quietly, deliberately. I poured coffee and walked through the house, noticing the floorboards I had sanded last month, the light bulbs I replaced, the laundry that never piled, because I made sure it wouldn't. It all belonged to me as much as to anyone else, but my ownership was silent. My leverage had always been quiet, procedural, unacknowledged. I went to the computer. One by one, I stopped payments, insurance, utilities, the repair service I had coordinated. I scheduled the movers. Every click was calm, precise, a ritual of claiming what I could not in words. There was no fury, no need for spectacle. Just an internal alignment, what I had given, and what I would no longer give without acknowledgement. By mid-morning, she noticed. I didn't have to wait long for the external shift to become clear. Her calls came sharp and incredulous. "What have you done?" she asked, voice tight. I let silence answer her. My husband hovered, stunned by the suddenness of this recalibration. The authority of the situation, until now abstract, had crystallized in the concrete reality of movers scheduled and bills unpaid. Her indignation was palpable, a visible shift in power she hadn't anticipated. But there was no screaming match, no dramatic collapse. She could see the house functioning without her control, and that alone unsettled her. My presence, once framed as temporary and negligible, now carried undeniable weight. The subtle, quiet authority I had always exercised behind the scenes was now visible, unavoidable. I wandered through the rooms as if for the first time, noticing the way sunlight hit the countertops I had scrubbed countless mornings, how the living room chairs had been aligned according to my unspoken standards. I allowed myself a moment to acknowledge my own contribution, to feel the relief of boundaries enforced without humiliation, without rage. It was strange, this calm reclamation. Empowerment without spectacle. The family gathered, tension thick but muted. My husband looked at me with something that hovered between guilt and admiration. My mother-in-law's eyes narrowed, searching for leverage that wasn't there. Everyone had their reactions, but none could undo the simple fact that the household balance had shifted. Quietly, methodically, the control had returned to me, not as punishment, not as revenge, but as recognition of what had always been. I didn't celebrate. There was no triumphal announcement, no speech. I simply walked through the kitchen, checking the fridge, the counters, the bills, the appointments. Everything was in order, under my control now. I felt lighter. Lighter in ways I couldn't have predicted when I had first arrived, carrying patience and tolerance like invisible baggage. By evening, the movers had completed their work. Boxes lined the entryway, poised for relocation. I sat for a moment in the quiet of a room that had always been mine to care for, if not to command. There was satisfaction, yes, but it was understated. It was a quiet victory, measured, earned, and wholly personal. I realized then that empowerment doesn't need to be loud to be real. It doesn't need to humiliate. It doesn't require celebration. Sometimes, it's simply the act of stopping what shouldn't have been yours to bear alone, of reclaiming the dignity you've carried silently for months. And in that silence, I found clarity, relief, and the undeniable sense that I had finally, quietly been seen.